Hello and welcome to the John's Jam Sessions podcast with every me, John, your host, and every you, co-host Mike.
Hello.
Hello, and today we're doing everything, and
Yes.
Placebo. Two album reviews. So the gimmick with this episode is we've recommended these albums to each other, haven't we?
Yeah.
So you recommended me everything,
Yeah.
2015,
Yeah.
Get to Heaven,
That's right.
and I recommended to you, every you, Placebo, Without You I'm Nothing from 1997.
Yeah. Eight,
Yeah,
I think.
eight,
Yeah.
7 or 8. We've never heard these albums before, have we?
No.
Obviously, we've heard the ones that we've recommended to each other, but I've never heard Get to Heaven. You haven't heard Without You I'm Nothing, have you?
No, I'd heard two tracks off this album going into. I'd already heard Pure Morning and Every You, Every Me, but I'd never listened to this album in full. So it was, I was. It was a good one to recommend for me because obviously Placebo band I'm already aware of. I decided to recommend you an album that I knew that you would never have heard of, and you would
Mm.
never have heard of this band, and you wouldn't know what to expect going in. And I deliberately did that.
Yeah, I can see that. So we'll start with everything first. If anyone here listening is just here for one or the other, there will be timestamps in the description. But yeah, we'll get into everything, get to Evan. So a bit of background first. How did you find this band? What's your background with this band? How long have you
Um,
been a fan?
I stumbled across this album in 2016, roughly a year after it came out, and it's a bit of a weird way of discovering the album. I had a couple of friends who had been listening to this band for a few years before this album came out, so I was aware that they existed, but I'd never given them the time. At the time, I was very sort of like. I was in a bit of a prog metal rabbit hole, and
Yeah,
that's basically all I was listening to. So I thought these were just one of them indie bands that pop up, that are just sort of run of the mill,
mm,
like every other copy and paste indie band, like the Wombats or something like that.
yeah.
So I thought, I'll leave them over there. And on the way, I was coming home from a holiday in Florida, and this album was on Planes playlist. Like on long haul flights, planes have like a selection of films that you can watch.
Yeah.
They also have a
I got
selection of
albums and
albums
that.
that
Yeah.
you can listen to. And I saw the person next to me was listening to this album, and I was just a bit curious. I was like, that's strange that this band, this little indie band, is on it's on an airplane sort of like playlist. It was only when I got home that I thought, let me just give that a try. I just absolutely loved it on first listen. I love this album so much. Spoiler: this is the album I recommended to John.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the best albums to come out in the last 10 years. It is so unique. It is so well. I know that you don't listen to much new music, many new bands. Um,
No, I will be honest. I
yeah,
don't. I think like the earliest you go back is, to be honest, the 2000s. Which, in all fairness, this band, I did do a bit of research. This band formed in 2007,
yeah.
first down 2010.
2010,
So
yeah.
so they're not completely fresh off the scene, are they?
No,
They
no,
have been going on for how many albums have they got now?
about six, I think. I
Yeah,
would say.
to be honest, for the modern band to have 6 albums within what 14 years,
Yeah.
that's quite a good output. That.
They are consistent.
Yeah.
2 3 years, every 2 3 years they release an album. So yeah, I just thought this. I just think it's such a unique album with so much character, so much color. But yeah, I thought I'll give throw this John's way, just to test the waters.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
Have you got any quickly before we get into it? Any background on the band itself? What you know of the band?
I know that they're from Manchester. All the members are from Manchester, but they actually formed while they were at university up in Northumberland, Newcastle way. So that's where it's listed that they were formed.
Yeah.
But they are actually from Manchester. I don't know much else about them. I've seen them 3 times live. I've not got much to say. They're just
Yeah. Again, that I still think that from my perspective anyway, they appear to be a band on the up, don't they?
yeah, very
Still
much so.
seem
Yeah.
like there's a tale to tell with them. But yeah, let's get into it. So obviously, as we said before, completely blind walking in. I had a feeling that I'd heard the name of the band from somewhere, and like you said that you knew that I'd kind of come in this with like no idea what was coming my way.
Yeah.
I did have like an inkling. I had a bit of a feeling because like I was like that name. I was like I'm sure like Radio X has like brought them up
Right.
before something
Yeah.
like that. So I was kind of expecting a modern kind of indie rock
Yeah.
kind of style, to be honest. So it wasn't that much of a like a left swing, to be
Right.
honest.
Okay.
But yeah, let's get right into it. So the opening track, To the Blade,
Yeah,
walking into this completely and utterly blind. First thing I noticed straight away is the singer's very thick accent.
yeah,
I do like all the subtle sounds and bits that are going on in the intro.
yeah,
There was a kick in that I didn't really see coming. There's lots of like cool stuff going on in this track,
yeah.
and I do fuck with it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
um,
great song. I love To the Blade.
yeah,
I love when it bursts into the chorus,
yeah.
after the
Quite funky chorus. Yeah,
very
yeah,
somber opening. And I also really love like the busy percussion as it transitions into the verse. It's just yeah, it sort of throws you from left to right a bit, doesn't it? It's
yeah.
sort of a bit all over the place. I think that sets the tone for the album
I,
really well.
I think you put hit the nail on the head there with the word busy.
Yeah,
I think this album sounds very busy,
yeah, yeah, it
and
is.
like in a way that's good because it doesn't drag or it doesn't kind of like feel like a slog like some
Yeah,
albums can be.
yeah,
But then yeah, next track is Distant Past.
yeah. Maybe can you leave me?
I like the electronic elements. Feels really modern. The production's very clean. The singer sounds ever so. The song sounds ever so slightly familiar, but I
Yeah,
do doubt I've heard
I
it
feel like
before.
it sounds really like it's got that house beat to it, hasn't it? Which you feel like you've heard before, but
Yeah,
yeah.
if there's one that I've always had like a kind of a bit of a joke the way I describe like bands of this kind of caliber, and
Mhm.
that's like I've always said, oh, it's in betweeners music. This
Oh,
because
I think there's. I think yeah. That
I could imagine this song like being played like on like the end credits of an in betweeners episode or something like that. Or
the thing is that's what exactly what I thought this band was going to be before I'd even listened to them back in the day. I thought they were just going to be like the Cribs or something, background indie music. But to me, this album sort of forces you to pay attention to it. It wouldn't really work as background music for me because it's so busy and there's so much going on, and the
yeah,
singer's voice is so attention grabbing. To me, it is very. It's an album that demands a reaction from you, and I think that's why I loved it so much on first listen.
yeah. It sounds like it is catered for live. And I tell you what, I did do a bit of above and
Yeah.
beyond research on this after the first initial listen, and I did check out some live stuff. I checked out like a short live set from the old Granada Studios or something like that
Oh, right. Okay.
from around the time this album came out,
Yeah.
and you know the music really does come to life
Yeah.
live. I have to say,
I can confirm it does. Having seen them live,
yeah,
they're so good live. They sound exactly like they do on the record. I love the bass on this album too, man. The bass lines, they're just sort of twiddling away, aren't they, in the background? And
mm.
so the thick and juicy production as well.
So we get to the next track, Get to Heaven, the title track.
Yeah.
Nice little drum intro. I do like the bouncy pop this kind of music brings. It's that typical kind of like summer fun music, you know,
It is
the kind of
summery.
vibes that
Yeah.
I tend to avoid.
Yeah. Well, do you know?
But it's fun in the sun. It's like the weather's out. It's
Yeah.
nice. Distant past.
And this the Get to Heaven is the title track, like you said, is so
Yeah.
summery and feel good. Makes me smile every time this song. I love it.
Yeah, you love the summer. We've always had a contention there, haven't we?
Yeah.
Whenever the weather's been hot, I lose me rag and I start going mad. And you're like, no, it's nice. Get out and have a. I'm like, no, fucking shut the curtains. Fucking.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I mean, just before we move on to the next track, I wanted to make a little point about the album cover. Do you think that this album cover perfectly represents the music on the album? Because I do.
Yeah, somewhat. So there was something I may as well bring it up now. Actually, there was something I was going to bring up, and that's obviously I listened to the album with no you know what I mean? Just completely blind, put the album on,
Yeah.
listen to it. Afterwards, I started doing a little bit of digging and a little bit of looking up. You know, like I wanted to see like kind of what the reception of this album was and a bit of background behind the band. And I remember like it said on the Wikipedia, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Said that the songs were like inspired from like kind of world events that were going on at the time, like
Mm.
is like ISIS,
Right,
like they were
right.
inspired by like well they weren't inspired by ISIS, but
Yeah, yeah.
they were inspired by like the events
Yeah.
unfolding around ISIS and all that.
Oh.
And I thought to myself like I didn't pick any of that up at
The
all.
lyrics,
Oh, in the 2015 election as well.
the
I was
lyrics
like, I
of the
don't pick any of
no.
that up from this at all,
I,
unfortunately.
I struggle to understand everything's lyrics at the best of times, so I've not really done much digging into them because they are very, very strange. But the album cover is like I look at it and it's a bit like chaotic. It's like what's going on?
Yeah, but
It's
still bright,
yeah,
vibrant,
yeah,
colourful. Yeah,
yeah. But there's them lush colours in the background that sort of reflect like the sound of songs like "Get to Heaven" and "Distant
yeah,
Past." The summery sounds. So I just thought it was an interesting thing to touch on maybe before we move on.
yeah. Uh-huh. Some very cute, nice guitar parts in the break. Sort of like call and response type kind of thing.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And then the next song, Regret, and this is where I'm going to hit you with the bombshell now.
Oh,
Four songs in, and I thought these are my initial notes. I have softened up on this take.
yeah,
4 songs in, sadly, I've got to address the elephant in the room. I'm not the biggest lover of the vocalist.
yeah, yeah,
At first, he really, really like grinded on me, and it was like I'm loving the music,
yeah, yeah.
but I'm hating the singer.
It's such a Marmite vocal style, isn't it? It's like the falsettos are
Yeah,
they're just so there in your face.
I'm trying to think like trying to like, get ready to an impression, but I can't really like
You can't do
mimic it. And then he does
can you?
that. He does all of that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
it just doesn't really like hit the bit of. I think what I said on this is said he's a bit of a messier British Frusciante.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Because John Frusciante does that like he does the high pitch like, kind of
Mm.
harmonic
The
melodic
thing,
stuff, and he also does the kind of more
yeah,
down to earth grounded.
the thing about Jonathan Higgs's vocals is that they jump from the highs to the lows very like they're always shifting and changing, aren't they? And it's like
Yeah.
you sort of like you can't keep up in a way. But I think that's why you need the second listen to this album and this band because you can sort of at first it's just like so much stuff is just hitting you, so much stuff is coming flying at you
Mm.
and flying at you, and it's hard to digest on a first listen. I think.
Yeah, yeah, I will definitely say that it's a good job. I kept coming back to it really, and then just give
Yeah,
it one listen because I might have just kind of written it off, to be honest.
yeah,
But I think, like going back to what you said, where you just kind of assumed that they were this like in betweeners band, this kind of
mm.
indie band. Unfortunately, like his vocalist does just kind of scream that to me a bit.
I
It's
don't-
like I don't really like the thick British kind of like. It's hard to explain.
I know, I do know what you
Um,
mean.
but like I think it kind of all just blends into one that kind of stuff. But that was initially what I wrote down. I have come,
Yeah,
I have softened to it a bit now.
yeah,
What else? Great guitar solo again on this track.
yeah, it
I
has.
did enjoy the chorus quite a bit, and it's keeping that bouncy pop. But getting a little bit more melodic now,
Yeah.
deeper into the album. And then I think this next song's probably my favourite off the album, to be honest.
Spring, summer, winter, dread.
Spring, sun, winter, dread.
Great song. I don't want to get older.
Like a ravaged baboon.
Oh yeah, we got all them lyrics at the end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the ravaged baboon, and I noted that down. I,
Lyrics are hilarious. I think. I just like he's singing it in his cute little voice as well. Like, and then he's talking about baboons, and I'm just like, it just makes me smile so
like a
much.
ravaged baboon.
It's great. It's a great song. It really is. Like one of the songs on first listen that I thought was one of the best on the album straight away.
It's definitely the one that stuck to me, and the
Yeah,
one I remember the most. To be fair, the wheel, which is turning now,
yeah,
apparently.
yeah,
The music really is like top tier. The blend of guitar, bass, rock music with the electronics. It's great.
yeah.
Again, cute in between is our song.
I
This
don't think it is. I think this
I
is.
kind of do think a bit like yeah.
I think it's one of the most experimental songs on the album in the way it transitions into this really.
Oh yeah, the
It
transition. Yeah, yeah.
transitions. The last third of the song is like this, like sort of Radiohead-esque, like electronic pulsing, isn't it? With I sort of didn't see that coming when I was listening to it because it's just so abrupt. It just so abruptly transitions. But
Yeah, it's very, very industrial
yeah,
influenced, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, it is a bit. It sort of ends the song on a bit of a cliffhanger. It is a bit intriguing to me, but I do love the core song. Is it in the way he calls your name? I just love that chorus. Wheel, yeah, it's again, it's a song that I just love it. Just love this album.
Yeah. 14500, a great build-up track. This album does have again great production quality, and it sounds very big. I love the organs on the outro to this as well.
Yeah, this is it's sort of this song sort of stalls the momentum of the album for me a little bit. It's not terrible.
On re-listens, yeah,
Yeah,
on re-listens, I've found this to be kind of like I would say it was like the first like bit of a
yeah.
dud in the
I
album.
think
Yeah.
if I was to make if I'm to make a playlist on on Apple Music and whatever, I'm going to throw some songs off this album on the playlist. This is always the song that never makes it onto the playlists.
Mm.
Fortune 500. Again, it has good elements to it. Definitely, it's sort of a spooky handy little tension builder, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, again, I can take or leave it.
Yeah. Blast Doors. This one's going into a bit of hip hop
Yeah,
influences in the verses and some Radioheadish, again, has been
yeah.
mentioned before, vibes in the chorus. Decent track. The
Blast
album,
Doors is yeah, sorry, Blast Doors for me is just one of them tracks that you have to have an opinion on it. It's not like a background track, is it?
no,
The
no.
falsettos are so abrasive in this song, and like I said, the almost rapping vocals. It's just like, whoa, so much stuff hitting you all at once.
Yeah. Zero
Uh,
Pharaoh Roche. Nice bass, great funky music on this track. Nice sense of some darker meaning in this song. It is starting to feel like they are getting into the darker subject matter around now.
yeah,
To be honest, like the things I have to say as it goes on gets a little. I do think like you're looking at it now from about 14,500 back to the end of the
yeah,
album. I think it's kind of said everything it's got to say at that point, and
yeah.
it's an
Apart
all
from,
right ride out.
I
Yeah.
tell you what, it hasn't said yet. It hasn't said it's okay to feel like a fat child in a pushchair.
Oh yeah.
Hasn't said that yet.
We'll get into bizarre lyrics on the next review. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it's always one of them lyrics and lyricists. They just come out with
Yeah.
some random things sometimes. Like
Thing is,
there's certain words that I just don't think ever sound good in a song. And one word I've always found that never sounds good in music is the word fat.
yeah,
Like whenever
fat.
it comes up,
Yeah,
it's very fat. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it really like
Like a fat
it's
child
it's
in a bush.
guttural, isn't it? So it's like when you're hitting the song, you're a bit like, ugh, like
Especially when the song is like so sort of serene and so sort of like because it's quite a hypnotic song, isn't it? No reptiles.
yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah, we're on the reptiles now. Yeah,
yeah, I mean this is a fan favorite. This track, and they finish every live set with it.
yeah,
And I've got to say, when I first heard it, I was like, "What on earth have I just listened to?" That was bizarre. Didn't know what to make of it, but now it's one of my favorite songs on the album.
yeah. I found it quite. I found the intro quite bouncy and nice and baby. Still, I still conflicted by the vocalist, but it's leaning towards, and it was at that point at the end of the album, it was leaning more towards a no than a yes on if I
Yeah,
liked him at that point.
yeah, yeah.
I did like the outro, as I've said.
Yeah, it was with the building climax in the sort of
Mm,
last half of the song.
yeah,
It's so good, isn't it? It's so heavenly to listen to.
yeah,
Synths just sort of blurring.
yeah. So that's it. It's a pretty
Yeah,
short, sweet ride, isn't
it's
it?
got Warm Healer as well, the final track.
Oh, I haven't even got anything down for that. Uh
Oh,
oh,
that's got a nice cute bass on it. It's
oh.
got an odd time signature as well. Sort of it's a nice track. It feels like the end of the album though.
Yeah,
It feels like it was meant to close the album off.
yeah. Typical closer. Yeah,
But I think you should listen if you didn't listen to it. I think you should give it a listen
yeah. I don't know. Maybe I did. I just
because it's got really nice bass and like I said, the odd time signature really throws you through a loop a little bit.
yeah.
It's a good song.
Yeah, I say it's quite a quick trip, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
does feel like a breeze. It doesn't, you don't feel like you. Oh god, when's the bloody end?
There's one thing about this album is it's certainly not boring.
Yeah. Now there was another disc, well on Spotify it was counted as two. I thought it was a double album at first. There was another
Mm,
disc that I didn't get onto, but
no.
I did check out a couple of songs off the first album and a couple of songs off the most
Okay.
recent album as well.
Yeah.
But let's focus on this album for now. I've put Get Seven sounds great from a music and album production standpoint. It's great modern rock, lots of interesting things happening, certainly not dull, but there's just one glaring issue for me, and it's really a shame, but the vocalist
Yeah.
doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
I can't fault his talent in the writing, but the vocals stand out over the music. It can be
Mm.
somewhat distracting at times.
Yeah, the
Now, I wrote that after the first listen.
yeah.
After more exposure, I've softened on the vocal style more. And ultimately, he isn't my favourite style of vocalist, and it's a little bit too much missed and hit for me.
Yeah.
I think his vocals work quite well on Summer, Dread,
Yeah.
Winter, Thread. For this, it does lose a bit in the score for me.
That's fair enough,
But
yeah.
gripes aside, I'm going to give it a nice fair 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. The vocals are going to make or break your opinion on this album, definitely for most people.
And I think it's pretty much the same for the next album
Yeah,
that we're
yeah.
about to get into in a minute, isn't it?
That was a really interesting thing about the two albums we recommended to each other. They've both got
Yeah,
that
there's some
distinct
weird
smell.
there was some weird similarities with them, weren't there?
Yeah,
I think they both charted the same when they initially released, Although, to be fair, in the 90s, you had to sell a lot more albums to get in the charts than you did in 2015.
Yeah,
But still, they charted at the same time. They're both kind of equally scored by critics.
yeah, definitely,
So yeah, there is some kind of similarities, you could say.
yeah.
But yeah, but before we move on to the next band, I would just like to add on that I did go out and do a little bit more on the band. I think their more recent album sounded very good from what I did a bit
Yeah,
thus far.
Mountain,
I think as time's gone on, his vocals have got a lot more disciplined, and
definitely,
I certainly was not as off put by them
yeah.
as I was when I initially heard them on this album.
Yeah, I agree with that. Mountain Head is definitely worth a listen. I think it's their second best album after Get to Heaven. Get to Heaven is my favourite
Yeah,
because the vocals, like I said, I'm a lover of the vocals rather than a
yeah.
ooh,
Well,
they put me off.
would you say that they slept on this band?
Definitely slept on.
Because I looked on the Spotify and they only had like
Yeah,
when I say only, you know what I
yeah,
mean? They only had like 450,000
yeah,
monthly listeners, and the other band Placebo, I was like I think they're slept on as well, and I
yeah.
looked at them as like 3 million monthly
Yeah.
listeners, and it's
Well,
like
Placebo have obviously got a lot more years under the belt, haven't
yeah,
they?
they've got a legacy, haven't they?
Everything had definitely slept on it. They've never really broke. They've never really broke the US like you were talking about. Placebo have never really broke the US. Everything definitely haven't. So it'd be good to get some more exposure out to this band. I think
Yeah,
they're definitely worth it. They're so talented and they're a hard working band. Like I said, always in the studio. Every 2 years, new album comes out.
yeah. As
Always
I say, for
touring.
the modern band, that's quite
Yeah,
impressive because usually, you're lucky to get two to three albums out of a band these days within
yeah.
a 10-year period.
Yeah.
Right. So, is there anything else to say about everything, or
No, I
should we move on?
think I've said everything. My
You've
personal
said everything about
I
everything.
have said everything. Yeah, I think my personal rating for this album, I'd give this a very strong 9 out of 10. I think Fortune 500 is the only moment on the album that I would say, if I had to pick a skip on this album, that's what I'd go with. Again, it's one of my favourite albums of the last 10 years. So yeah, I don't think I need to say any more.
Yeah. Well, I think I can say with a fairly amount of confidence that your recommendation was good,
Yeah,
and I did enjoy it again. The vocalist initially, I was a bit like,
yeah,
I don't know about this, but it has kind of softened to me over a few listens. Like I kind of
yeah,
know what I'm getting into now.
yeah.
One thing I did think when I saw the live footage is he looked significantly older than all the other members.
Oh
Like
man,
he looked like he could be their dad or something like that.
that
Like
was that was an old clip, wasn't it, that you watched as well?
yeah, that was something about 2016. Yeah,
Oh,
I think.
you should see him now. He's a large gentleman now, Jonathan
Is he?
Higgs.
Right, so we'll move on from everything, and now we're getting into Placebo.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about the Without You, I'm Nothing album. I think before we'll do the same thing again. My background with this band, it dates back quite far, to be honest. I think they've always kind of been in the background of my life since I was probably like early teens. I always remember like they were kind of like they were very popular with like the alternative like
Yeah,
girls that you
yeah,
kind like the cooler ones that you'd kind of see over in court with the ciggies and the mouths and that, you know what I mean? They'd be like, listen to Placebo, man.
yeah, yeah,
And then obviously you'd hear the stuff from like Kerrang, and obviously there was like Nancy Boy,
hmm,
Pure Morning, the stuff you always heard. I remember picking up the Greatest Hits CD when I was, oh God, I must have been like, not that old at all. But besides that, I didn't dive too deep into the
yeah,
into the Placebo rabbit hole. It wasn't really until it was 2015 and I saw them they were touring and they were playing in Liverpool, and it was a pure like off the cusp, like it was like that week. I was like, fuck it, you know what I mean? I've just been
yeah,
paid for my job. Like, let's go. I went to see him, and I think that really changed it. Then after seeing him live, it was like, wow, that really like blew me away. That, and then
hmm,
after that, I started getting like, let's listen, let's get all the albums, let's have a proper listen.
yeah,
And I would happily say that they're one of my favourite bands. I
hmm,
really like them, and I think, as we'll get into, I think they're really like underappreciated.
yeah,
So like your background with Placebo gets very basic, just
yeah.
hearing the odd song here and there. Like
I've heard the singles. I heard Nancy Boy, obviously, and the two songs off this album, Pure Morning and Every You, Every Me. So again, they were. I always liked them songs. I always like when they came on Kerrang and stuff. I was always like, oh, that's a decent little song. But
Yeah.
the vocals
Oh,
always made me think, would I listen to a full album of that?
and we're about to find out.
We are about to find out.
So let's get into it. So we open on Pure Morning, probably one of the band's best known songs. I love this track personally. I think
Yeah,
it's gritty, raw. The vocal delivery is like spot on. Sounds like really venomous. I love what's going on throughout the guitar and all that. The song is pure, haha, no pun intended. Build up without a real like release. Like you're getting edged a bit, aren't you?
yeah.
Um,
It's a good
but
description.
it works so well. It's a bit sexy and it's a bit sleazy and
Yeah,
it feels a bit groggy, but in like a nice kind of
it's a great alt 90s alt rock track. It's a classic track
yeah,
for a reason.
real like grungy kind of
Yeah,
vibe,
yeah.
isn't it? Yeah, like post grunge.
Yeah. It's again, I've not got loads to say about a lot of the songs on this album. They're just very, very good, solid alt rock tracks. The lyrics, can you explain anything about the lyrics on this song? Because I struggle with them.
Not none at all, really. I think it's very basic. You know, a friend in need's a friend indeed.
My Japanese is better than what? Than who's
A
Japanese?
friend with breasts and all the rest. I mean, based maybe.
Maybe, yeah, maybe, yeah.
I think the thing is with Brian is he's never been the best lyricist, and like as you said, with the odd little kind of line and quip from the Everything album,
Yeah,
I think Placebo are littered with kind of like there's a
yeah,
lot of bands like this, but a lot of like what did he just say? A
yeah.
lot further into their career, it gets more and more like
Yeah,
it stands out more and more, and it kind of hits you like this the album before last. There's two songs in particular,
mm,
and this one song which I personally love, but everyone I've ever known that's heard it or I've played it to thinks it's the worst thing that's ever come out in the history of music.
what on the first album?
No, on the album before last, the
Oh, okay, yeah.
2013 album. People always say like this is the worst song that's ever been made,
Oh,
and
I'll have to listen to that.
it's called Too Many Friends. And the opening line is, and I'll try and do the voice now. My computer thinks I'm gay.
I've got to listen to
And
it.
whenever anyone listens to that, like they immediately go, "What is he talking about?" It's a song about mobile phones and the addiction of mobile
Yeah.
phones, and like you know, it's very heavy-handed in that subject matter.
What has
But I
that got
quite
to?
like it. It's got like a nice little piano intro.
Yeah.
It's got nice strings in it, and it has got some hard-hitting lyrics.
I've got to.
The applications are to blame for all my sorrow and all my pain and feeling so alone. But that one line at the beginning, my
So,
computer thinks I'm gay.
it sounds like it's supposed to be a very serious song, tackling a serious subject matter. And
Yeah,
how can you take it seriously when that lyric just hits you
yeah.
straight from the off?
The full, and I know we've gone off him. I
Yeah.
could not talk about Placebo and not talk about this song. The full intro is my computer thinks I'm gay. I threw that piece of junk away in the Champs Elysees as I was walking home.
Oh dear. Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. You know, the computer thinks he's gay. He's a very, you know,
It
if you
is.
see Brian,
Well.
you'd assume instantly he was like gay or trans, wouldn't
mm,
you? But
Yeah.
he's actually bi. I think I think
Right.
he's married with kids.
Oh, fair
So
enough. I didn't
yeah,
know that.
but let's go back again
So
20 years back to
let's
the
crack on.
nineties now.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
crack on. So we get into Brick Shit House, which is much different.
The title made me laugh
Yeah,
straight away. Like,
a much different change in pace. I love the frantic nature of the song and like the melodic vocals in the chorus. It blends really nice. Pure grungy, thrashy guitar. The guitar work is pretty damn underrated. That little intro. Bam 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 bam
yeah.
bam bam.
I think this song is a. I think this song is decent, but I think this song was done. This style was done much better on the album in later tracks down the line. It is a good, like you said, it picks the pace up from the sort of from the more melancholic, slow opening of Pure Morning. It picks the pace up, but again, I didn't really go back to this track loads. I went back to other tracks quite a lot. I didn't go back to this one loads. I just thought it was okay. It went by in a bit of a blur. What I will say about this album as a whole, the production is fantastic. It is crystal clear.
Yeah.
It's just got the right amount of noise mixed in with the guitars as well to make it sound, dirty and very
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
90s, but it's aged very well for me. Everything's got room to breathe in the mix. nothing comes across too loud and overbearing, and there's reverb on the vocals, which are just right. So I think the sound of this album is flawless, to be honest. I've got no issues at all with it.
Mm.
Speaking of songs that,
Brick shit house.
yeah, again, when I referred to songs that do this style much better than Brick Shithouse, the next track, You Don't Care About Us, is superb. I love this song.
Right, okay.
Absolutely love this
Didn't see
song.
that coming.
This went on my playlists straight away.
No, right.
This is a great song, I think. Again, it just does that. It just does that upright. That's sort of like what's the word I'm trying to look for?
It
Just
just
edit
sounds
this.
weird, but yeah, like with Placebo, like
It's
some of the
energetic. It's energetic,
yeah,
isn't it? Like
yeah,
it just picks the. It continues the energy. So the energy that Brit Shithouse sort of brought to the table. I think
yeah.
this track carries it on, but it's much more instantaneous, much more catchy. I think this was a great song, a highlight on the album.
Yeah, yeah, I think they're pretty much the same. I thought that the energy was a little lower, but it works more
Yeah,
to the style of the song. It's the guitars that shine out for me. It's like bam, bam, bam,
yeah.
bam, bam.
The guitars are great, and like I said, they sound great as well. Is it
Yeah,
one? The Placebo have one guitarist.
one guitarist. They've pretty much been a three piece throughout their
Yeah,
whole career.
I
Yeah,
thought so.
yeah.
Is it Brian that plays the guitar? Or
It is, yeah. So it like like Brian is the guitarist, Stefan is the bassist. But
yeah,
when you see them live, they have a backline of session musicians, and Stefan swaps between guitar and bass.
oh
So
yeah,
I don't know how many guitar parts he writes himself.
hmm.
But yeah, again, the two masterminds are Brian and Stefan. Really,
Yeah,
they are the band, and then they've kind of had a bit of a revolving door
hmm.
of drummers throughout the years.
Yeah.
We get into ask for answers, getting more into a mellow sort of shoegazy
It is.
territory.
That's exactly the word I
Um,
have got for this song. It's shoegazy.
yeah,
It's shoegaze influenced, and the thing I love about this song is just the glide guitar on it. You know
yeah,
that sort of the bandy, woozy
yeah,
sound of the. And if anyone doesn't know what the glide guitar effect is, it's something that was popularized in shoegaze music of the early '90s. So bands like My Bloody Valentine used this a lot.
yeah.
It's basically you basically strum a chord, and as you're strumming the chord, you bring the whammy bar just very
Mm.
very slowly down. So you're bending the strings ever so slightly, and it creates this like dreamlike
Yeah,
sound, doesn't
yeah.
it? And it's sort of really hypnotizing to listen to. Ask for Answers is it could be my favorite track on the album.
God damn, man.
I thought this track was unbelievable.
Yeah,
I really did. I loved it.
I think the bass riff in the intro is so bloody soft and cute.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
want to give it a sexy kiss.
yeah.
I think this album oozes sexuality.
Does a bit.
But it feels like dirty,
Yeah,
sweaty, gross sex with a girl who's got cigarette breath.
yeah, like
Like it does
yeah,
feel sleazy, and it
yeah,
does feel like sleaze and is say post grungy and all that.
yeah,
I really like this track. It's very calm and relaxing,
yeah. It is. Yeah.
wrapped in lust and lunacy. Brian's vocals are very divisive, and I admit I love his singing on this track. He
Yeah.
does the soft spoken very well. Like these bonds are shackle
Yeah.
free.
I think I'll address the vocals while we're on the
Go
vocals.
on, we both did it around track
Yeah,
four, so
it's definitely an acquired taste, but for me it works in the context of this album. And I was initially worried that it had put me off, already knowing Placebo before, and I was thinking, is this vocalist just going to annoy the hell out of me for an hour? But it really didn't. Actually, I found that
yeah,
he doesn't. He's not so overbearing with it. It doesn't sound it anyway, because there's. I think it's because it's mixed perfectly. I think, and he obviously he's very nasally, and it's deliberately so, isn't it? That's his style. But yeah, I can understand why some people like with the Everything album would be turned off by the vocals. But I was surprised at how much I enjoyed the vocals, and they didn't sort of
yeah.
get in the way. They didn't. I felt like they didn't overshadow anything that was
Yeah,
going on around them.
that's always my one biggest worry when exposing people to this band.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
is that it's like, what? How are they going to take to Brian?
yeah, yeah,
Are they
yeah.
going to love him, or are they going to be like, this is like nails on a
But
chalkboard?
yeah, like an annoying type thing.
Yeah,
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 yeah. No,
yeah.
again, like I had no issue with the vocals.
Very nice. Right, we get into Without You and Nothing. Sadly, not the superior Bowie collab version. Did you listen to the Bowie version?
I preferred the album version.
Oh, did you? No,
Genuinely,
okay.
maybe it's because I'm not a huge Bowie guy, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Again, he's another vocalist that is a very, very acquired taste for me.
yeah,
And his sort of dramatic theatre esque style doesn't really do it for me. So I thought it worked better on the
yeah.
album. I did really like this track as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Thought it had such a good build and sort of like it had a proper. Whereas the last track, Ask for Answers, was very serene all the way through. I think
Hmm.
this one built up to a climax much more.
Yeah.
Again, a track that I go back to. I think it's a great track.
Yeah, I've put I think the dread to this song, the longer the note, the more dread.
Yeah,
Peep show reference there.
yeah,
The dread just hits you like a ton of bricks. I think with
yeah.
the bass tone, the stingy guitar, like down, 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 down,
Hmm,
down. Pure misery music, which I fucking fly for.
yeah.
The song is just devastating. The without you,
Could it be?
I'm nothing. It kills me. It kills me inside. It's
Yeah,
like a lighter, more Deftones,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
In
yeah,
a way,
yeah,
a phrase that's usually somewhat positive that you kind of throw towards. Oh, without you, I'm nothing. In this song, it sounds terrible.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Without you, I'm nothing. Like
The atmosphere of this album is so polar opposite to Get to Heaven, isn't it? It's so,
it was a wild
yeah,
neck snap.
y-
I don't know what order you listen to them, but I put on this one first. So
yeah,
every similar to the fucking
yeah,
Barbenheimer thing that went on a couple of years ago, isn't it? You know, the Everything Everything album for me was a nice
yeah.
palate cleanser
Uh,
after.
I listened to this one first because I was unfamiliar with it, and obviously I'm very familiar with it. Get to Heaven, so I did the same as you. I listened to this first, and then I went and give myself a refresh of Get to Heaven, and I was just a bit like, oh, that's picked me up a bit. Not to say that I didn't enjoy this album. Spoiler, by the way, I really did
Yeah,
enjoy this album.
yeah. So then we get into Allergic to the thought of
Mother Earth.
to Mother Earth. I think this blends really well. It kind of transitions well from the
Mm,
last track into this, and it picks the pace right back up with that bass. Bam, 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 bam. This hands down my favorite track off the album,
yeah,
and probably one of my favorite Placebo tracks. I love the bass run and get the guitar on the chorus. Well, would you
yeah.
call it a guitar chorus? It's not really like a conventional
No,
guitarist.
yeah, it's real.
So good, really, really tingles something in my
Yeah.
brain.
Like you said, it's a really interestingly structured track, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think this run of tracks on the album is probably my favourite run of tracks from You Don't Care About Us through to this song.
Mm.
I think it's a great run, to be
Yeah,
honest
it
with you.
is. Yeah.
Then sadly we stall a little bit
Oh,
with
do we know?
with
Every you and every
no,
me.
the crawl. The
Oh, the
crawl.
crawl. Yeah, bloody. I'm skipping tracks now. Yeah,
See,
I'd have to admit. Yeah.
there's two skips on this album for me. There's the crawl and there's My Sweet Prince, which we'll get into in a minute, which
Oh,
are
that's nice.
the two skips for me. Not got much to say about the crawl. I didn't go back to it. I must say it doesn't go anywhere, does it? It doesn't pick up any momentum. It's just sort of plods a bit.
No, for me, again, I put it's more misery. It gives me faith slash 17 seconds to Cure albums. Very big vibes off that. Very like kind of post punk.
Yeah,
But just that kind of meandering.
yeah, yeah,
It does make the album's pace a little up down up down up down, doesn't it? Yeah, I find usually in pretty much most Placebo albums you're always going to get the one or two kind of skippers, and this is definitely one of them.
yeah, yeah.
But then we bounce into every you and every me. Another well-known hit of theirs. I love the vocal delivery, and it is all about them chord changes. Like for
Mm,
me, I think the song sounds quite haunting.
yeah, yeah,
I know I'm selfish, I'm unkind. Sucker
yeah.
love, I always find someone to bruise and leave. That was completely the wrong bloody harmony. I'll just read it out normally.
You can edit it for
Um,
add a funny little effect on it.
I could, couldn't I? I know I'm selfish, I'm unkind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
It's a
Sucker
great.
love, I always find someone to bruise and leave behind. Short and sweet, love this track.
I love this track as well. I loved it before, and this is another one Radio X loved. They loved this song, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
Like,
Radio X. Yeah,
yeah,
they did give Placebo a little bit of love,
yeah,
which I appreciated. But it was always like, really, this track or yeah.
yeah. It was this or Nancy Boy, wasn't it? But I again, this is a great solid track, classic '90s alt rock track. Not much to say about it.
No, and then My Sweet Prince, which you've already shown your cards to a little bit there.
Yeah,
For me, it's another slow, dreamy number, but I do love this one.
yeah,
Again, I think it sounds so haunting and the dread. And he's like, me.
And the dragon can chase all the pain. It doesn't go away.
I think that's something to bring up at this point. Is like his vocals. He loves doing the He's got his little Brianisms, and
Yeah,
he
yeah.
loves his me he.
He
And
really,
like dragging out the last word on the end of the song, doesn't he?
yeah.
There's like he's got a very distinct kind of vocal kind of pattern, hasn't
Yeah.
he?
I think that the instrumental in this song is quite like it's quite Nine Inch Nails ish with like the sort of drum machine, isn't it? Like
Yeah,
it's that,
again going into industrial influences,
yeah.
which they pick up a lot more on the album after
Especially
this.
like
Yeah,
it reminded me of like the Fragile era Nine Inch
yeah,
Nails.
yeah,
It just didn't justify its length. This track, it just felt way too long
yeah.
for a track that doesn't really have any significant change up throughout it.
No, no, it
It
doesn't.
doesn't really need to be 6 minutes long to me. So again, it's a skip for me. This one.
Yeah, I'd just like to say about it. Obviously, song about heroin, isn't it? Brian, the dog from Family Guy, he's got a history of nasty drugs, and you can really like feel his struggles and pains in this era of the band. You know, a lot of the songs around this period of time are even about sex, drugs,
Hmm.
and kind of like the darkness behind them. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll move on from that and go into Summer's Gone, and I wish it was, to be honest, because I've had enough
Oh
of
no, let's just get it going.
it. I like the melodic vibes on this track, but it seems like filler for me.
Yeah,
This is probably what I would consider one of the skip tracks. Kind of comes and goes and doesn't really have much going for itself, does it?
I'd put it in the same category as Brick Shit House in the sense that like it wasn't terrible, like, it was listenable. There was nothing that stood out as bad to me, but I just thought it was one of the yeah, like you said, one of the filler tracks that sort of was done better on another song. This style was done better on previous songs. Yeah, if I'd probably put it in the skip. I probably wouldn't add it to my playlist. Put it that way.
And then Scared of Girls. This song has a few questionable lyrics.
Yeah.
Her younger sister had a blister where I kissed her on her thigh. What?
What?
Okay, it's a tad messy. It feels a bit more first draft, but for me, this song isn't too offensive. It doesn't hang around for too long.
I really like
Um,
this song
all right,
from an
okay,
instrumental point of view. I really liked it. It's
yeah,
got the sort of it sounds
down, down,
yeah,
yeah,
with
down,
the
down, 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 down,
the
yeah,
really noisy guitars. It sounds a bit like Smashing Pumpkins ish, off the first album,
yeah,
off Siamese Dream. It's got that sort of like noisy harmonic ish, like
yeah.
sound of the guitars. So this was a track that I actually put down as one of the highlights.
All right,
I did
okay.
like it. Yeah,
It's been an interesting run so far, hasn't it?
yeah, yeah.
And then we're in the closer already. Burger Queen.
What does it mean?
And we're calm again. I adore this song. I think it's really spacey, dreamy, melancholic ballad.
The lyrics
Uh,
on this song.
the bass is so
Oh.
lovely and soothing. Again, some humorous lyrics. Takes him all day just to get an erection.
I just don't know where.
Hey, you.
I don't know where Luxemburger Queen. He's a Burger Queen came
Luxemburger Queen.
because it's like, is it supposed to be funny? Because I laugh out loud at it.
I think it is. I don't think it's meant to. It's a bit of a closer. It's a bit cute,
Yeah,
but I think what it is like the lyrics are so daft and stupid, but I think the music is so like
yeah,
beautiful and
that's it.
lifting, and I think the guitars are like Cure-esque solos, and
Yeah,
doesn't it's quite a long closer in it, but it doesn't feel long to me.
yeah, yeah.
I could listen to it for a long period of time, but yeah,
It's not a bad track musically and stuff. It's just I just did laugh
Born
at
by
them bits.
Caesarean section.
Yeah,
Takes him all day to get an erection. So
Burger
trust me, the
Queen.
deeper you get into Placebo, the more wild lyrics that you're gonna find. Like, and I think at the end of the day, like you can't take yourself too seriously, and you can't take the band you listen to too
No,
seriously. I think there's a problem in fan. But
yeah,
going back to what we said previously, a couple of episodes ago about stan culture,
yeah,
and how like all these bands people like get
yeah,
obsessed with and artists like they've got to be lyrical geniuses.
yeah,
They've got to be masterminds. Everything's got to have this hidden meaning.
mm,
Like when Eminem referenced Brian the dog from Family Guy,
yeah, yeah.
there was something behind that you were too stupid to
Yeah, and
understand. And
that's why I thought it was ridiculous because I didn't get it.
sometimes no. Like you can love a band to death,
Yeah,
but sometimes you got to be able to call it out and be like,
yeah, yeah.
that wasn't your best.
No,
You
yeah,
know what I mean? And I don't,
exactly.
going back to what I said, I don't think Brian's the best lyricist,
No,
but it's more about the delivery
Yeah,
and the melody for me.
yeah,
So that's it. The album's done
yeah,
already.
yeah,
I've put "Without You, I'm Nothing" is messy. Now that could be used as an insult,
yeah.
but for me, it suits a somewhat
Yeah,
messy band with a messy life and
yeah,
messy heads.
yeah,
This really captures a moment in time for me. I have a lot of respect and appreciation for it. Not my favourite Placebo album,
mm,
but I would argue it's definitely an important one.
yeah,
I battle with my heart and I go with my head on the score.
yeah,
You know, my heart says give it a 9. My head says give it a 7. There's a
mm,
few fillers. There's a few couple of skips,
yeah,
and I there's albums by them I much more prefer. You know, looking back on it, I was like, damn, maybe I should have recommended this album or that album.
mm,
But I thought this one is kind of like this gives you a taste of everything from the band. I think.
yeah. I think that I was surprised to report that I really liked this album, actually. I thought this was a good recommendation. I think it's a step up from the debut, from what I've heard of the debut. I think this is,
So you weren't too keen on the
the
debut.
debut was good, but I think this was a step up in terms of the production was far better. The
Oh
debut,
yeah, the debut's got them classic like
yeah,
first album kind of
debut albums
rough tinny kind of.
debut album's really, really raw. Brian's vocals on the debut album are more grating to my ears than they are on this
Yeah, I
album.
could see that.
So yeah, I think this is a W. I really like this album. I'll be returning to several tracks off this album in the future.
There you go.
I've given this an 8 out of 10, a light 8 out of
Oh,
10.
you rated it higher than I rated it. That's very good.
I think
I'm very pleased.
it's got so many sounds that I already like the shoegazy elements. Like I'm a big shoegaze fan and stuff. I love bands like Slowdive.
Yeah,
So that's like I said, songs like Ask for Answers and the instrumentals on Burger Queen as well, Allergic to Thoughts of Mother Earth. They've all got the shoegazy stuff that I already know I like.
yeah,
And then you've also got the rough and ready, the alt rock tracks, You Don't Care About Us,
yeah.
Every You, Every Me, Scared of Girls. I think it's got a really good blend of tracks. It's not a perfect album, obviously. There's a couple of skips on here for me, but overall, I can say that I can say that this album's got a lot more to like than dislike on it, and a solid, strong 7/8 out of 10 for
Oh,
me.
very good. Did you listen to any of their newer stuff,
I
or did you?
didn't
No, did you
know.
not get a chance to? I think it'd be very interesting to see what you think of kind of how the band's progressed and kind of what they went
Yeah,
through. Because you had the debut, then you had this album, and then the album after that was kind of bookends the kind of initial sound, and then from Sleeping with Ghosts, they start picking up a lot more kind of
right.
like electronics
Yeah.
into their music, and and then you get Meds, which is I'd probably say is close enough to like their peak,
Hmm.
where they start getting a little bit more poppy and a little bit more,
Yeah.
trend chasing, and
Yeah.
then the kind of take a bit of a wild turn then and go down a different direction.
Hmm.
And I think you always have these bands who have these fan bases that kind of drop out, like we've gone on previous episodes about various other bands. There's always kind of like a drop off point where a lot of fans kind of go, "This isn't for me. I'm not digging it. I'm
Yeah.
out."
Yeah.
And you can certainly tell that the band's kind of popularity has declined in
Yeah.
recent years. I think this is a good point that this is an album that you really enjoyed, an 8 out of 10
Hmm.
album, but you've never been exposed to. Like this is where I think they are a very slept on band. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people have kind of written them off as like childish or dated
Yeah.
a little bit.
Like a band from your youth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Because they were, as I say, going back, Court's the kind of the cool girl on the bench with the cig in her mouth, like
Yeah.
she was the placebo head. Pete, everyone would have the placebo, the old little lyric in the MSN little sub, little title thing.
Yeah.
So it's when you get deeper into them and you find out that there's a lot of gold
Mhm. Yeah.
underneath, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah.
And one thing I say, because I've seen them live now about, oh God, three or four times.
Yeah.
They play pretty small venues, and it's a great experience. Sometimes that's great. It's
Yeah.
a great experience because this is a band again, one of my favorite bands. I love this band. I've been able to get right to the barrier
Yeah.
almost every time, and like the experience of that is like incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
But
I mean, it's mad, isn't it, that a band like Placebo, who have got such like a strong back catalogue behind them, they would probably play the same venue as Everything Everything.
yeah,
Everything play like the Academy and places like that, in Manchester.
yeah. So
I would
when did we
imagine,
last see them? The Liverpool. Oh, what was it? What's it
was
called
it the
now?
Olympia?
It might. Yeah, it was the Olympia.
I
Yeah,
saw King
yeah,
Gizzard at the Olympia, yeah. And
yeah.
again, it's the sort of size venue where again it's more. I would imagine it's more for it's quite Placebo back in the day would have obviously played like the arena, wouldn't they? The Manchester
Oh
Arena
yeah, yeah. I
at
did see them do the
15,000
arena.
capacity,
I
but
did, yeah, and this is something I could briefly get into. I did see them do the arena
yeah,
in 2016 when they did their 20th anniversary tour. The problem with Placebo is a lot of it's kind of been a bit self-inflicted.
yeah,
So when they tour and when they've got new albums, you're going to hear that new album.
yeah, yeah,
There's certain songs that they've kind of stated like we don't like that song anymore. We don't want to play it.
yeah.
Nancy Boy has come back into rotation, but that was out for quite some time.
How was it?
Pure Morning barely ever gets played.
Oh,
And when they did that 20th anniversary tour, they said if you want to hear certain songs live,
yeah,
this is your last chance to
right.
hear them
Oh God.
because we probably won't be playing them again. And it's like, yeah, with that, you got the bigger venues because you drew bigger crowds. Because
Mm,
again, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because like you as a band, do you want to be? Because there's nothing worse than them bands that like they tour and
mm,
it's just like a little greatest hits set. Or someone says, "Oh, so and so a tour," and you're like, "Oh, great!" So you're going to sit there and watch like a 2 hour set to hear three songs.
yeah,
And you go, bloody hell, I didn't even know they have enough songs to, to,
yeah,
to fill a set. Like, you do want to keep that integrity of your band, don't you?
yeah,
And I understand that and I appreciate that. But at the same time, it's like, don't need to hear 12 out
yeah.
of 14 of the songs off the
No,
new album, or at least pick six of them and rotate them, change the
yeah.
set list a little bit.
I think also that they're at that point in the career now where this is the level now. They're never going to have another peak, are they?
No,
Let's be
no, not
honest.
really.
It's been 25 years since this album came out, and this has got two of the biggest hits on it. They're not going to peak to the level that they were in the mid 2000s again. So I think they maybe have just settled on that. And they're quite happy with that. And they're sort of meeting bands like Everything on the way down as they're coming up.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
just interesting to see like where both bands are at in their careers currently, isn't it? Like, one band's got 20 years on the other. Well, 12 years on the other, if you're going by
Yeah, yeah,
when
yeah,
they
exactly. Yeah,
formed.
yeah,
It's just interesting to observe, isn't it? Like a band on the way down and a band on the way up, and how they just sort of meet at at a sort of stage of popularity or
yeah.
whatever the word is.
Yeah, I think that we've said what we can say. So on leaving, we will just do kind of like our wrap up. So everything.
Hmm.
I quite enjoyed the album. I've gone out and looked for more and
Yeah.
searched more. Thing for me is it's always about vinyl. Like if I really like something, it's getting purchased on vinyl. Will the
Hmm.
purchase get to heaven on vinyl? Honestly, got to be
Yeah.
honest, probably not.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard it. I
Yeah.
feel like I
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
If it ever comes on, if I ever hear it again, I'll,
Yeah.
I'll happily listen to it.
Fair enough.
I'll keep an eye on them. I'll keep my ear out, and if the
Yeah.
name
Yeah.
pops up, I'll have a little nose and see what's going on.
Yeah.
But
Definitely. Yeah.
for me, I think I'm happy there. I'm happy to just very casually tip my toes
Yeah.
into the pool. But all in all, good recommendation. I
Yeah.
was very happy with it. So placebo, have you had enough? Will you get off the placebo train?
Uh,
What's next in your placebo path?
no, I think I will. I think I will definitely. I will definitely give the immediate albums that came out after this one a listen, as you've recommended. Sleeping with Ghosts.
Yeah,
I think that'll be my next stop off on the placebo train.
yeah,
And then, it depending on how much I like that and the albums after that, I may like give the newest one a listen. But yeah, I'd revisit this album. I
yeah,
thought this was a very good album.
y-
It's a bit of me, this album, sound wise.
yeah.
So yeah, I was quite happy with the recommendation. Happy to say that I wasn't bored at any point listening to this album. I
No.
wasn't sat there thinking, God, why is he giving me this to listen to? I thought it was very good. Yeah. So yeah, the Placebo train may have a couple more stops left yet.
Very good. You will have to listen to Too Many Friends, though.
Oh well, yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'll make a point of listening to that.
Yeah. Again, it's been a wild ride for the thing is with bands is I always like an interesting story.
Yeah.
I kind of find it a bit dull and like, oh, we released this album that was very good, and then we did this, and then over time they just got slightly and slightly less good. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Whereas like I kind of like a band that like has this wild, and then they tried this and that was a
Yes.
complete disaster, and
Yeah.
then they had a comeback and all
Same.
that.
Same.
Yeah, I always like something interesting to the bands.
Yeah.
Live gigs. Maybe I would go see everything
Yeah.
if they were
Yeah.
playing near. Would you go and see Placebo next time they tour?
I would. Well, again, you've told me that the
Let's
set
put
lists.
something. Let's put no. Never mind that. Let's put something down for this podcast. This the future episode. Now
Okay.
we will both see the bands,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
after we've seen the bands,
Yeah.
we'll do a follow up to this episode,
Sounds good.
and we'll
Actually.
review them live.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Um,
Sounds like a good
how
one.
we can line that up.
That,
I don't know.
that means
I'm,
I
I'm
will.
assuming everything with an album out this year are currently
They have
currently touring.
they toured just before that album came out, so I reckon next year they'll tour again.
Not to create too much dead air on the podcast, but let me quickly see if I can see if there's any tour dates.
You can snip this out. I think I would have heard if they were touring.
Fortunately, Placebo, I think they've just finished their last UK date that they're going to do.
I
So
think I will have to give a listen to the late.
Birkenhead,
Oh wow, what?
Birkenhead. Oh my God, the Future Yard in Birkenhead.
What Placebo?
No,
Everything.
everything on the 24th of August.
What on earth? Oh
Right,
my word!
we'll get that sorted. We'll go to that.
Wow. Do you know what? Let me just double check that.
Birkenhead.
Yeah. When we get off, I will have a look and see if I'm available for that.
Yeah. Well, they've got 2 in Birkenhead.
Wow.
At a Birkenhead residency. Who would have thought? And then there's Leeds, London, and Berwick upon Tweed.
Oh yeah.
Don't know where that is.
Yeah. It's
But yeah, we could hopefully see them soon and do
yeah.
everything live review. And then when Placebo come round, we can do a Placebo one.
Yes.
But that's enough stalling for time to try and get this to hit an hour. And with editing, it probably won't. So this is
That's fine.
this has been the John's Jams Sessions podcast. If you like the podcast, please follow on Spotify. If you've listened to this episode all throughout, please rate it 5 stars. Follow us on social media. Follow us on the YouTube. I did a video, it's done quite well, exploring an old abandoned rock club that I used to hang out in. That's quite cool. Episodes coming up on YouTube. I'm trying to get all that synchronized because it's been a bit messy with the YouTube releases. I'm hoping from next week they'll be coming out Tuesdays everywhere. So yeah, thanks for listening. If anyone out there has any album recommendations, happily throw them our way. Same time, please, if you haven't already listened to them, check out Get to Heaven. Check out Without You I'm Nothing. Let me know what you think.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
Yes, we will.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.
Takes them all day to get an erection.